Welcome to Swartz Talkin Sports. I'm your host, as always, Les Swartz. Thanks for our third episode. And as always, please hit the subscriber button. Really important that we get as many subscribers in watching our content as possible. And also in the comments section below after our show, would love to hear your thoughts on the show, maybe how we can improve it, some questions. Hopefully we can answer your questions. Always, and I'm going to start this with a little bit by saying, the views expressed on this broadcast do not reflect those of Swartz on Sports, our sponsors. So I should always start that off by that as well. And we're going to be joined a very, very exciting guest for our third show. We are going to be bringing on, and it's a baseball-themed show, softball-themed show, First Inning with Jack Smithlin. Jack, the current softball coach at New Jersey City University. Jack's been coaching. This is his 50th year in coaching. He's in the Fairlawn High School Hall of Fame. He's also been heard on WFAN on the show The Sports Edge with the legendary Rick Wolf, and also at his own talk show at WGBB Sports 1240 Radio Sports Talk on Long Island. So without further ado, I'm really excited to bring on Coach Jack Smithlin. Hey, Jack.
How are you, Les? Before we get started, I just want to say that I love that Maris shirt behind you.
How in the world does a Boston Red Sox guy, born and raised, have a Roger Maris jersey?
Hey, listen, I'm a Met fan, and I was a Yankee fan as a kid. I was a Mickey Mantle fanatic, and when they battled that one year, I'm almost positive that I watched some of those games on black and white TV, and it was amazing. Mantle was my man, and when he got hurt, Maris took over and actually hit the 61 home runs. It was amazing. So I was a big part of that.
Legendary, right? I mean, I remember seeing the movie 61 with Billy Crystal, really, showing that whole kind of, I guess it was a friendly rivalry between the two and beating Babe Ruth's record. Excellent stuff.
It was amazing.
So let's jump right into this. So obviously, your 50th year in coaching, right? You're a legend in the coaching ranks in New Jersey and things like that. And the first thing I really want to ask you is, at the Division III level, what are the main differences between coaching at Division III and maybe at a Division I level? What would be the main differences?
Well, the main differences, Les, would be probably the recruiting part of it. I mean, so many kids come out of their club programs and high school programs with a Division I mentality, we say. And the Division I mentality and knowing, what their theories are at Division I mean, it's very tough to get a starting role as a freshman. At the big time, the Power Fives or the big programs, you're going to sit a year. You might even be redshirted. But, with the Division III, even Division II, you probably have a better opportunity of starting right away or getting some impact playing as a freshman. But the recruiting part of it, we don't give athletic scholarships. Everything that we give is academic scholarships. Mm-hmm. And we'll give, we have different programs and everything like that. But recruiting is probably the biggest. And I'm going to say real quick, I'm going to keep this short, but the athletes are the same. The athletes are the kids at the D3. It's a business just like at D1. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's 40 hours a week you're practicing, you're playing, you're doing it all year round, just like D1. But where it differs is that probably the D1s get the better pitchers. They get the bigger, stronger, better pitchers. Because when you recruit at a D1 level for a pitcher, that kid's going to be playing probably instantly for you. Mm-hmm. But when you have a shortstop or a center fielder, they're going to have to wait their turn. At D3, that's not the case. So when we recruit, I never promise playing time. You got to earn it, like anywhere else you go. But your chances of playing at the D3 level instantly or being an impact player kind of quickly is a lot better chance than at the D1 level.
Now, question, Jack, as a D3 program, do you ever participate or play, whether it's a preseason or in-season games, against a Division I program? Is it strictly Division III plays Division III and there's no games there?
Well, we can scrimmage anybody we want. In the fall, NCAA allows us a certain amount of days of practice. This year, we got extended a week. Last year, for the past years, it was always 4-week program, 16 sessions, nothing past that. The NCAA the gods that they are, gave us an extra week this year. And now we can practice actually 20 sessions in those 5 weeks. My theory is we go down and we scrimmage junior colleges. Okay. Now you got to remember, we don't, like I said, we don't give athletic scholarships. So I'm gonna scrimmage kids, top notch junior programs, not like lower level junior or JUCO school. But I'm gonna look around in our area, the Northeast, and find the best junior colleges, because if you got to remember, after their 2 years, if they want to continue their education and softball careers, they got to move to a 4-year school. So I use that scrimmage day as a recruiting day. I mean, I bring in kids that I want to look at and track for, that I've been tracking possibly, and we play them. We don't really scrimmage another D3, but D1s used to scrimmage the D2s and the D3s, and the conference that we're in is called the NJAC. It's actually by the NCAA, voted by the NCAA rank. It's one of the top 3 toughest conferences in the nation. Now, you wouldn't expect that from the Northeast, but we have schools in our program that get into the nationals every year, go 2 or 3 rounds into the nationals. We have almost every school in our conference has been a national champion at least once. We put in more All-Americans than 95% of the D3 programs in the nation. So we're a very tough conference. So when I recruit now, talking about the differences, I tell them that we have a D1, D2 mentality. Okay. We're not looking to just go out. I mean, listen, you got to be having fun. If you're not having fun, go find something else to do. But the point is that I say to my recruits, there's no bigger heart than the heart of a D3 player, because you're playing for the love of it. You're not playing for the money. So when you go out, you're giving everything you have. But the part about the difference is we won't scrimmage a D1 unless they want to scrimmage us. And based on our conference, they don't scrimmage us because we'll beat a lot of the D1s in the area.
And that's a no-win situation, right, for a D1 program that goes down and scrimmages against a D3 and gets beat.
Right.
Now,
I mean, I remember I was talking about Rick Wolf. He coached at Mercy. He was a D2 powerhouse program in New York. He used to scrimmage and play against the D2 programs. Now, they lose power points when they go down a level, but he stopped playing the D3s in New Jersey because they beat him all the time. So the point is that it's been a tough conference, but when I recruit, actually playing them, we don't play a D1 unless they challenge us, and we'll play anybody. So, I mean, it's usually D3, during your schedule. When you go down to Florida and you do your spring training, you're only playing D3 programs. You're not playing any other program.
Now, Jack, just real quick. So the majority of players that are on your squad that you have coached over the years, being in a New Jersey school, and I know you've also had prior coaching experience at Montclair State as well. Are they local kids? Do you go out and recruit kids from, say, Florida, California, types of, Northeast? Do you go into New England? How exactly, what's the makeup of your team and the teams that you've coached in the past?
Well, since I came aboard, I mean, I was actually hired at New Jersey City as a mentor to a young coach. Her name is Ashley Martinez. She was an All-American at a D2 school, and she was one of my instructors at a Nike softball camp. She fell in love with my enthusiasm, my motivational speeches, my inspirational talks, my hitting. I've been I'm considered, and not one of the top, but a lot of people come to me for private hitting. I've worked with our Olympic hitting coach for years.
I could have used you in high school, Jack. I could have used you.
Well, it's funny because both my sons played baseball at Penn State. My older one got drafted, played 8 years of professional baseball with the Padres and the Cardinals. He was drafted by the Cardinals. But the point is that our kids now, there are recruiting sites out there. One in particular, and I'll mention the name, it's called Field Level. Okay. They have kids from Puerto Rico, Venezuela, Canada, United States. They go all the way out to Hawaii. I have tomorrow, I usually do a hitting clinic on Sunday mornings. I'm not doing it because I have a recruit flying in from California that I'm going to give a tour to tomorrow with a couple of our athletes and our head coach. So the point is that we're recruiting all over the United States. We have a girl right now that pitches for us from California. We have a girl from Florida. We have a girl from New York State. But most of the New Jersey schools, that conference that I talked about, the NJAC, that's so strong, they're mostly 85% New Jersey girls.
Okay. And I'm not familiar really. I mean, women's softball has kind of taken off in the last few years with the dominance of like the Oklahoma Sooners program. I know they're on ESPN. How many games have they won in a row? Or I mean, now they've set some record, haven't they?
They were, I believe they were up to like 56, something like that, 70 games in a row. I mean, I don't follow it as far because I'm mostly recruiting during the year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm out watching tournaments of high school kids and junior college kids. So, but, I mean, I know the powerhouses. And,
sure.
I've worked with a hitting coach years and years and years ago, probably before you were born. I
don't know about that. I'm pretty old.
Well, you know what? I mean, I think I got you by a few. But this girl her name was Dot Maver. She actually worked with Sue Enquist from UCLA, and she was a hitting coach. She, believe it or not, was probably one of the first original teachers of rotational hitting, which is what I'm going to tell you 95% of all major league hitters hit with today. There's no striding anymore or anything like that. This woman was a phenom when it came to hitting. So I studied with her a little bit, and I read her books and videos and everything. But I worked with Wally King and a guy named Kelly Cooper, who was a hitting coach and a scout for the Arizona Diamondbacks. So what I teach in hitting is what's being taught at the highest level. So, when I go out and get athletes and things like that or recruit them, in-state tuition is a lot cheaper than out-of-state
mm-hmm.
tuition. And being that we don't give scholarship money as far as athletic money, it's tough to bring a kid in who's going to wind up paying 50% of their of their tuition and room and board, and when they can stay at home and pay half of that. And, one of the things that makes New Jersey great is that we're one of the top higher education states in the United States, one of the top three, us, Virginia, and Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. But we're also one of the top school states that have the lowest in-state and out-of-state tuition. So that actually draws some kids in from out of state. But I'm recruiting all over the United States.
Okay. Now, Jack, question, because we just touched a little bit on the financial part of this. Do athletes at the Division 3 or 2 level, do they actually receive any NIL money? Is there a potential for NIL money there?
Listen, NIL money can go down to club softball, club baseball players now. There's no such thing as amateur sports anymore.
Right.
You can use your name, image, and likeness for anything. We can get sponsors. I'm going to tell you a quick story real quick.
Sure.
I was looking at a D1 kid, kid that was being recruited by St. Peter's here in Jersey City. They did very well in the NCAA basketball tournament last year. D1 school. And he and I sat alongside this kid watching this kid. And I said to him, hey, listen, do you want her that bad that you have NIL money for her? She goes, oh, yeah, I got NIL money. I said, really? He said, yeah. He goes, what about you? I said, come on, we're a D3 program. But I know that she's a McDonald's lover. She loves McDonald's.
Who isn't?
So I'm going to buy her. I told her I'm going to buy her a 4-year McDonald's course. So she's my starting center fielder right now because she actually thought she was going to get a McDonald's card. But,
So hold on.
No,
you recruited.
We can do NIL money.
Hold on. So you stole a D1 player by getting the McDonald's.
Yeah, I don't want anybody to know that though. But and it's funny because at the end of this session, when we were both watching and scouting her,
yep,
we both got to talk to her for 10 minutes. It was like a whole program set. So I said, listen, you're D1. I mean, come on, you got money. You talk first. I want to be the last one in. So he said, okay. So when I told him about the McDonald's money, a card, she had no clue. She's not a McDonald's lover. So at the end, after I got in to talk to her, I started talking to her and I said, hey, listen, I don't have the kind of money that she goes, Coach, stop. One, I'm coming to play for you. And my heart came up and wow, she said, every time that you recruited me, every time you talked to me, you made me laugh. He never made me laugh. And two, I'd like that McDonald's card. I said, what McDonald's card? So the first day of practice, I brought her a Big Mac and a frappe to practice for her. But she's now my starting center fielder, loving every minute.
Well, I got to tell you, Jack, that's fantastic, and that proves right there that recruiting, the personal relationships that you can forge with an athlete can really, really go far. And I want to touch a little bit more about that in our second segment of Second Inning, but We're going to be right back with Jack Smithlin after a word from our sponsors.
Forever 24 Fit, Leland's only gym with 24-hour access. Get fit when it's convenient, utilizing Life Fitness, cardio, and weight machines. And for those of you who prefer free weights, there is a free weight area as well. Start your membership today and get on your way to a better you. Six Happiness. Enjoy fresh Asian cuisine in a relaxed and friendly atmosphere where we believe good times deserve great food. Featuring the best sushi chefs in the Leland area. So come on in and we guarantee you will be delighted.
Welcome back to Swartz Talkin Sports. I'm your host, Les Swartz. This is our third episode, and as always, please hit the subscribe button. Very, very important to us, and hopefully you like what we're talking about. There's a little bit more Jack Smithlin in second inning, so please comment and let us know what you think of the show, and if you have any questions, I can certainly get those to Jack, and he can answer those for you. Jack, thanks so much. Jack, actually the softball coach right now at New Jersey City University, his 50th year of coaching. I know, Jack, we talked a little bit about recruiting and we talked a little bit about Division III programs versus Division I. I want to touch base, while we have you here for the second segment of second inning, a little bit about conference realignment with the Power 5 schools and how that's kind of changing sports. And most specifically, the Pac-12 losing all those teams. They've lost 10 to either the Big Ten or the ACC. What's happening now is there's 2 teams remaining. They're going to have to find homes. They're scrambling right now. There's going to be lawsuits. There's going to be all kinds of things, but ultimately they're going to have to go to a conference that does not give them the 20 or 30 or $40 million of revenue to shear down to the other programs, more specifically minor league sports and women's sports. So how do you think that is going to affect the landscape of college athletics, and particularly with women, in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I'm going to tell you, with those Power Five conferences that you're saying are now being dwindled down to a much smaller. What is it going to be? 2 conferences possibly, or something like that.
It could end up being that way.
It's going to affect everybody, and it's going to affect them in a way that, listen, when you go from getting $40 million a year for the conference you're in down to 7 or 6 or 5. That's going to affect scholarship money too, because a lot of that money goes towards, the money that they earn during the year, these big football programs and basketball programs. Those are probably the 2 major money makers at a big university. And then you got wrestling at a lot of the schools. I mean, listen, I'm not a football person. I mean, I did play a little bit in college as a place kicker, but the point is that, these programs that are huge, okay, they're going to continue to be huge. Correct. They're not going to, but when you think about it, they're going to be spending more money too, because they're not going to just be flying across the state or to the next state or two. They're going to be flying. UCLA is going to be flying across to play Penn State, Rutgers.
It doesn't make any sense to me, but
it doesn't make sense to me either. But the lower level D1 programs that are in those conferences, they're going to be affected too, because they're going to lose a lot of money too, because they're going to now have to go search and find a new conference. Mm-hmm. They'll probably keep it within the realm of distance, try to keep it in the geographical area, and travel less, not as many plane rides and things like that to compensate. But it'll also affect a lot of like we were talking the other day about, football teams get 75 scholarships a year. I mean, that's ridiculous to me. But when a D1 baseball powerhouse only gets 11, now I know our rosters are a lot smaller, mm-hmm. but a D1 program, my sons went to Penn State. I mean, that's where I come in football. I mean, I love the Penn State football and the Big Ten football. But, when you only have 35, 40 guys on your roster, whereas compared to a football team has 100 guys on their roster, right. That makes a big difference in money. So, a baseball player never gets a full ride unless you're a superstar pitcher. In fact, I do believe, and I think this still holds, but don't quote me on it. My son got a partial scholarship to Penn State for baseball. Joe Paterno actually talked to him because he was a very good receiver in football in college and a place kicker. Very fast speed. I mean, his 60 time was a 6.1. which is off the charts speed-wise.
What's faster than me?
4.2240. I mean, yeah, think about it. I mean, I can't think that fast. So, but the point is that Paterno looked at him to play football there, but he wasn't a football player. He wanted to play baseball his whole life, and he fulfilled his dream. I mean, he didn't get to the top. He was close, but you know what? So my football background is basically the Big Ten, but these schools are going to affect everybody else. They're going to affect everything around them, all those other teams, like the lower level schools, even in the Big Ten. Rutgers, I don't believe they belong in the Big Ten. Maryland, I don't believe they belong in the Big Ten. You know, personally, they're not football programs per se, even though Rutgers tries to be a football program.
No, traditionally, Jack, I know, Maryland, out of the ACC was always a basketball powerhouse, right? I know Boomer Esiason did go to Maryland. I know Boomer.
Baseball, but, baseball doesn't bring in money.
Right.
So, but I mean, at Penn State, wrestling brings in as much money as probably more money than basketball does.
Didn't you tell me that the wrestling program at Penn State can bring in upwards of 19,000 people to see a meet? That's incredible to me.
Well, when they wrestle Iowa and Ohio State and they wrestle out of their conference too. Iowa State, they've wrestled Oklahoma in the past. I mean, they're national champions, I think, 5 out of the last 6 or 7 years. But they have an arena that's called Bryce Jordan Arena. It seats about 19,000. They'll pack that.
Wow.
Basketball doesn't pack it. And, and they charge the same thing for wrestling as they do basketball. So, they make a lot of money in wrestling. And there's big wrestling schools that make more money than their basketball programs. I doubt they're going to make more money than the football programs.
Right.
Because I was told at one point that Penn State on a home game Saturday could make close to $100 million. So
well, 112. I don't even know what the stadium holds now. I'm probably about 112,000 people. They have those whiteouts in these games. It's a tremendous atmosphere, from what people tell me.
I mean, they start coming in and tailgating on Tuesday.
A little early for me, but so we've really tackled a lot here as far as the women's sports, where we think it's going to go, conference realignment. I want to touch base on one subject right now that can be considered by a lot of people controversial. Okay, a lot of people don't want to touch it, but in my show here, Swartz Talkin Sports, we cover all the bases and we don't shy away from things. So I want to get into very briefly the issue of transgender in sports. Especially, you're a coach, you coach women, transgender women in sports. In my question to kind of delve into it, and let me just be honest in saying I don't know much about it. I've heard arguments both sides. I really don't, I just don't know enough to even form an opinion on myself here with it. But have you ever coached against a team that had a transgender athlete? And if you have, how did that work out? And number two, would you recruit a transgender female to be on your team? And how do you think your players would react to that, or about somebody like that possibly taking a spot from somebody? Do you think they'd be welcomed in? Do you think that they'd be shunned a little bit, taking someone's spot? And then you can talk to me about, maybe the dangerous effects of this, where, someone coming in and just in general, how it affects the game, and where do you think this is going with this?
Well, the biggest concern, okay, Les, the biggest concern about transgender athletes is the transgender female athlete, okay?
And that's transitioning from a male into a female, correctly?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, a male transgendering to a female, okay? Because it becomes an unsafe situation. All right. No matter how we look at it, let me first talk about the human side of it.
Sure.
Everybody has their rights. Kids that identify as the opposite sex, want to become the opposite sex, trans to an opposite sex, should still have the same rights as everybody else.
I totally agree.
But when it comes to the scientific side of it, okay, there's safety. No matter how you look at it, no matter how you think about it, when a male trans to a female, they still have a male body. Males are born with bigger hands, bigger muscles, bigger bones, bigger heart, bigger brain, okay? And they develop at a much different rate. Boys develop at puberty. I mean, females usually develop earlier. They reach puberty earlier than males on the average. But the male will grow and become stronger, faster, thicker, bigger, everything, more powerful.
Right.
So when you're thinking about a transgender female now competing as a female with a man's body, it becomes a very, very difficult topic. And it's not fair. And no matter how you look at transgender, Les, there's like no winner. There is no winner. I mean, at New Jersey City University, like I said in the first inning, we talked about how we look at you as a person, the holistic being, the part of you being important to us as a person, not as a student, not as an athlete. Now, we put all three together and work it very well, but you come first to us. I'm a strong believer in a happy student athlete is a productive student athlete. So when you think about it, would I recruit a transgender athlete? In baseball and softball, it's not as relevant as in football or even wrestling or any of the big-time contact sports, even though the ball will come off the bat a lot quicker with a male hitting it than a female hitting it, okay? But then the science tells us that when a male trans to a female, okay, they start withdrawing the testosterone and implementing the female growth hormone, which I believe is estrogen, okay? And there are other hormones too. So what happens is they try to equal it out, but it will never, ever be equal. And as far as your question about how my kids would feel, I'll guarantee you right now that my girls on my team would have no problem with it. The people that would be their parents, okay? That's who would have the problem with it. They understand that all people were created equal, whether you were born as a female and became a male or vice versa. You are a person, you're a human being, and you are equal to everybody else. You'll be given the same opportunity. Now, as a coach, that's the way I would present it to my kids. That's the way I would present it to the transgender athlete. You're going to go through some hard times. I mean, think about this. Now, it's off topic a little bit, but think about what Jackie Robinson went through. Coming into a white league as the only black player, all the harassment that he and his wife and family had to take. He was a hero to everybody. Okay, he was a hero to everybody.
Tremendous role model.
In my opinion, transgender athletes are heroes. They've done what they wanted to do. They were not afraid to do it. They probably had to go through counseling. I mean, I don't know how much time we have, but I have a very personal, close person to me that trans, okay? And they were a female transgending to a male athlete. They were a great athlete at the lacrosse level. They were a goalkeeper in female, as a female. All state. Going into her senior year, she trans to a male. Okay. She went out for the boys team, won the position, and was blackballed. Okay?
How does a coach do that? How does that happen? How do they blackball them?
How does that happen? Oh, it happens by people being prejudiced. You know, in this situation, it's not an unsafe thing. She's not as strong as those other two goalies, but some of the things that apply to goalkeeping, reflexes, quickness, vertical leap, she had all of that. All right. I knew this kid when she was a little kid. I knew from day one that she was going to be one of the best female athletes ever to play in that state. Just watching her gait, watching her throw, watching her catch, watching her run. Okay. I had no idea at the time that she identified as a male, but hey, you know what? To each their own. And it's tough. It's a tough situation because, like I said, there's no win here. Nobody wins, you know? I mean, the swimmer, I think from Princeton or Penn, broke every Ivy League record there is. What do you think those girls on the other teams that she was competing against? Maybe the girls on her team loved it because they won every meet, but those are the people competing. And then there were two athletes from Connecticut, two boys, identified as females. They didn't trans. They They went through no procedures to change their sex. They just identified, and Connecticut let them run. They broke every state record there was. They won every meet. What do you think those girls that were trying to get into colleges were getting beat now, coming in third, okay, instead of first, because two boys were running against them?
No.
So there's no win here. There's really no win. It's a very, very tough, and it is political. It's very political.
Now, Jack, let me ask you this, because I've heard about this. Again, I'm not going to plead ignorance, but I just don't know enough about the subject. But I've heard that there are certain regulations regarding states that will allow transgender to compete, and some will not.
I'll tell you the stats on that. 27 states have no rules about transgender athletes competing.
Okay.
But each district can argue it, and it will be heard by a committee. Okay. There are 18 states that will not allow female transgender athletes to compete, and there are 8 states that will not allow any transgender athlete, male or female, to compete. Now, what the standard is right now, what is being said, okay, and this is something that will probably be passed in the next few years, hopefully sooner, but to settle everything, to get it down, and then you deal with all the, the emotional problems. But what the rule of thumb is going to be is that you're going to have to participate at the sex you were born. Now, that becomes unfair, too, because here I trans from a male to a female, and I'm now being forced to compete against men, and vice versa. It's not fair to the people I'm competing against, and it's not fair to me. So when you think about it, and I said it before, there's no win here. There's really no win. My thought is this, okay? Years and years and years ago, and I tried to look this up, and I tried to get some background on this, handicaps were not allowed to compete in the Olympics. They were blackballed, okay? So what did they do? They started a Special Olympics. And it's one of the biggest organizations in the United States today. Now, as more transgender athletes start participating and wanting to participate again, maybe start up different units, small little units in each state for transgender athletes. Let them compete, okay, against each other. And you know what? I don't like barring it. I don't like saying that they should be eliminated from any competition. But if you're going to try to stay fair and safe, it might be the only thing to do. No, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right.
You know something, Jack? It's an opinion. It's a debatable subject. There's just so much going on about it, and I think that it is so new, and it's an infancy that we're talking about all this. That I think that in the next 5 to 6, 7, 8, 9 years, I think the picture will become a little bit clearer, and I think there will be avenues for everyone to compete fairly. At least we all hope that, right? But I want to take this time. It was really being enjoyable. I really, really like talking to you and getting to hear all of this. So we touched some subjects that, we normally don't address on this show, but I think it's important. And I think that, these are subjects.
You were very brave to take it on, Les. I mean, Rick Wolf took it on, and then we were going to do a big time segment on it, a 2-hour special, and he passed away suddenly. But the point is that it's a tough topic. And I give you credit, and I give anybody credit that wants to talk about it, research it, find out more about it, because there's nothing worse than being ignorant about it. But if you know about it and you can actually talk with a sense and a maturity about it, it becomes a much easier topic to tackle.
Well, I really, really appreciate you taking the time to come on Swartz Talkin Sports. Jack, wish you success this year in your season. Hope you guys win the league, and I hope you guys win a national championship.
Oh, that would be nice.
So, and maybe we'll have you back to talk a little Major League Baseball as the playoffs get started.
Before we leave, I want to say something. This is in my heart. I always say that success is not always measured by wins and losses. Success is measured by growth, development, maturity, getting better. You might have the best day of your life as a team and get beat. You don't control the end result. It's the journey. And just talking to you about this, talking to you about transgender athletes, we're on a journey here. And I once again, I compliment you for taking it on. I really do.
Well, Jack, I appreciate that. Again, thank you so much for being part of the show, and we'll see you hopefully soon With that, we go to third inning. We'll be back with Benny the Book, the King of Carolina, his picks after a word from our sponsors.
Jim's Pawn and Gun Shop, located at 4212 Oleander Drive, Wilmington's #1 firearms dealer. Sporting a large inventory, including all brands of handguns and long guns, a full stock of accessories, and all types of ammunition, Jim's Pawn and Gun Shop has it all, including the best customer service in the area.
Before the lights go out, call Wilmington Generators. We offer the lowest price and a 10-year warranty for all Briggs & Stratton installations. A Briggs & Stratton powers more of your home for less money. Call for a free quote. Wilmington Generators. We play with power.
Welcome back to Swartz Talkin Sports. I'm your host, Les Swartz. Again, special thanks to Jack Smithlin for coming on and sharing some really keen insight. I know that some of the content, is considered controversial, but I thought Jack did a tremendous job. And speaking of keen insight, everyone's favorite segment on Swartz Talkin Sports, here he is. We've got him. Benny the Book, the King of Carolina. Benny!
Hey, how you doing, Les?
I'm doing okay. I know I know. We'll get to the pros.
I'm
a
little beat up after yesterday.
It happens to the best of us.
I had a tough one in the pros. Still looking strong in college, but it's just those pros are unpredictable. I know the Cowboys were good, but I didn't expect that.
Nah, and we'll get to that. Obviously
really
we touch on the pros, but. So you went 3-1 in the college. The only game you lost was that UCLA San Diego State debacle there. But you're riding Coach Prime, and he's now 2-0.
2-0, and I'll tell you what. There's a few quarterbacks that made big jumps in the Heisman race there. I'd say that Shedeur Sanders is right up there. 80% the first week, 21 for 32 the second week. No interceptions.
That's the big thing, Benny.
That's
no
a
turnovers.
Big thing. No turnovers.
Yeah.
No turnovers. And then very, very impressive win for the Texas Longhorns.
I know that was
Quinn Ewers. They went in there and they really they dominated Alabama.
Physically dominated an Alabama team.
Yes.
Does not happen.
Hey, they were 52-1 going into that game
with non-conference opponents. That's incredible.
Yeah. I'm not a 52-2, the coach said.
I give it a Sarkisian. He's turned that program around. And listen, they go to the SEC next year, right? So this is going to be interesting. This could be a rivalry.
Yes, it could be.
Okay, so that was an interesting game. Obviously, the other team you were pretty high on, and you said not only would they cover the spread, but they would win outright, and that's the Washington State Cougars. And another Heisman hopeful, Cam Ward, playing fantastic football for the Cougs.
Yeah, we had mentioned that in the first week of the show that Pac-10 had 4 or 5 quarterbacks that could really light the numbers up there. They were all doing Knicks. Knicks did it again. He had another good day, and Caleb still. He looks like the front runner, until you knock the king off his throne. He'll have some tough tests though. I was at the Notre Dame game. NC State.
So we got a firsthand.
And Notre Dame looked pretty impressive.
They did.
And USC will be coming into South Bend, and we'll see what they do.
I'll tell you, Benny, based on what I've seen, obviously you're a huge Notre Dame guy. I've never been traditionally a Notre Dame backer, but I will say that stout on the offensive and defensive lines. They've got running backs, and they have a quarterback that might be the best quarterback they've had in a number of years. I mean, this kid can throw the football.
Absolutely. He's definitely a big step up to what they had recently. And it's their line though. They can control the game. They've got number 7. Their running back is a beast.
Yeah.
The guy is a beast. He cannot be tackled. It was a funny story that the game was had lightning 2-hour delay. So we were outside in the parking lot, and one of the people that we were under the tent, we were soaking wet, and the woman says, "Oh, I think the fans are going back in. It says the game's going to start in 10 minutes." So we trudge through the rain. I get right up to the stairs where I'm leading down to my seats, and I look at the screen, and there he goes running 75 yards.
You guys missed it?
Yeah, well, I saw it on the screen. Yeah, yeah. They brought the guys back on. I was a little annoyed because I didn't know how they were going to tell people. They kept saying, "Oh, we'll let you know when the game's going to start." How are they going to let people know that's sitting in their cars?
I don't know how you do that, but
Yep, I don't
lightning's
know.
no joke. Well, I will say, just getting back to the Pac-12 just a little bit.
Yeah,
Today, the top 25 just came out. You've got 7 teams in the Pac-12
7.
that are in
Wow.
the top 25. That's more than half the conference. And again, this is what really irks me, Benny, is like, I know it's gone after this year, but look at this. You've got a conference that is absolutely playing tremendous football from top to bottom. They've got depth, and it's going away because of greed and money. And
Money.
it's just a shame to me. It really is.
It really is. And I like I said at the original show, these are college students. They're there to get an education. I know that the top players, their aspirations to go to the pros, so that they'll always finish their education whenever they want. But guys traveling from the East Coast to the West Coast and leaving school early, I really don't see how that benefits the student.
No, I don't think it does.
And that's the most important. That's the most important part of this is the student, not the university is going to make $60 million.
It used to be. I mean, it's completely changed in the last, number of years. But so a nice week, 3-1. Now that puts you at I think 8-3 for the season in college.
Yes.
So you're running through the gauntlet.
4-2. Yeah.
Now let's look
7-3.
7-3. So you've got you're picking 4 this week.
Yeah.
And
4
I know,
college
and
games
we always say
people.
this. In all fairness, we're picking on Wednesdays. It's not the easiest time to pick. There are injuries that happened the prior week before. We don't get the injury report updates until Thursday or Friday. So you're picking based on the information that you have right now. So that does not make it easier. That's for sure.
Well, yeah. While I was looking, I had a few games in mind, but then I had to change them and go to some other picks.
Well, let's go to your first pick this Saturday.
Oh, you'll really like this one.
Am I? Oh boy.
My first pick is I'm going to take the Mississippi State Bulldogs plus the 10 points at home against your LSU Tigers.
I can't disagree with the pick.
I'm not as confident as Washington State last week, but I think it's going to be a close game. I could see LSU winning, but I don't think they're going to blow this team out. I think this team is going to be right there the whole game.
Benny, we did put 72 on Grambling last week.
Oh wow, yes. Well, that's
Doug Williams wasn't quarterbacking that team.
Impressive. We will be hearing the cowbells. I'm going to just give you that prediction. Doubt. The cowbells will be ringing.
No doubt. And Will the quarterback Rogers is an outstanding, underrated quarterback.
Excellent. Yeah, excellent quarterback. He's been there. I think it's 4 full years now. I think he's been there. Like I told you, it was a big loss losing their coach.
Yep.
But
Mike Leach.
He probably learned a lot from that guy, and I'm sure he remembers what he's supposed to do.
All right, so you like Mississippi State, and they're actually getting 10 points at home. Let's roll game number 2.
All right, and in the second game, I'm going to go with the Appalachian State
because you like the name Mountaineers. Come on.
Yes, Mountaineers that's a good nickname, Mountaineers. They're playing East Carolina. East Carolina. I took East Carolina last week. It was one of my games I was thinking about, and they were winning or tied going into the last 6 minutes of the game, and they allowed 21 points and lost by 21.
Wow!
And Appalachian State is one of those teams. They could put 45 on the board very easily.
Well, it was a tremendous game they played with North Carolina. Again, second straight year. Came down to the last play in overtime, double overtime.
Double overtime. So I think that Appalachian State's going to put a big number on the board,
Okay.
and I don't think East Carolina can stick with them offensively.
All right, so we're going with the Mountaineers in game 2. All right, let's roll game 3.
I'm going to go against that Wisconsin Badger team again. I'm going to take the Georgia Southern Eagles. Plus
You were not a
the
fan of Luke
19.
Fickell this year, are you?
Well, they're traditionally not a blow them out team. You know, they like to run the ball, so their games are shortened because they run the clock. You know, they're gonna run the ball. They usually don't have a quarterback that puts up big numbers.
Right.
They want to steamroll you. And so far, Georgia Southern, they've seemed to put some points on the board. So getting 19 points, they put up 20. I don't see Wisconsin scoring 39 points, 40 points. So I think I'll be pretty comfortable with those 19 points.
All right, so you're going to take Georgia Southern, and then for the final game, and probably biggest game of the week,
Right.
the way we're picking, who do you like and why?
I'm going to take the Florida Gators plus the 6.5 at home versus the Tennessee Volunteers. Okay. I know Tennessee has a very good quarterback, Hilton. They struggled a little bit last week.
They did against Austin Peay.
They didn't. You know, they won, but you know, this is a different ball club they're facing this week. The Florida Gators at home
in the swamp.
Typically a good defensive team, getting 6.5 points opening week. They played Utah and they hung in. I mean, they made a few mistakes first game of the year. So hopefully the coaching staff corrected those mistakes. And I got a feeling it's going to be a very good ball game.
Now, real quick. Okay, so let's recap. You like Mississippi State getting 10 at home, Appalachian State 9.5 against East Carolina. You like Georgia Southern in 19, getting 19 from the Wisconsin Badgers, and you like Florida in the first game of the SEC, getting 6.5 from the Tennessee Vols, who did not look outstanding against Austin. Is it P or Pay? What are they? I don't even know.
Austin Peay.
We'll go with Austin Peay. Now, before we jump to the pros real quick, Benny, let's get right now your top 5 Heisman. If you were picking the Heisman and you had to pick 1 through 5 in no particular order, who would the top 5 players in college football be?
I would go with, you have to go with the guy that's been there before, Caleb Williams.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to go with Quinn Ewers.
I like the pick.
I'm going to go with the kid from May from North Carolina.
Okay.
I'm going to put Shedeur Sanders in there.
Okay.
And I'm going to have to take one of these. They got several. I'm going to go with Nix from Oregon.
Nice bounce back win last week. I mean, that was a tough game against Tech. Tech came in ready to roll, frenzied crowd out there in Lubbock, and Nix brought him back, and they got a nice pick at the end of the game. Actually helped you out a little bit, right?
Help me out. That's right.
Helped you out a bit. So I liked it. I like the 5. Can't argue with that, Benny. Can't argue.
But as you say, it could change. When these when these big games come around, Texas. Quinn, that was a big boost for Quinn Ewers going to Alabama and playing the way he did. That's where the Heisman's made or broken.
And I'll tell you one thing, Benny. I don't think, based on his performance against the Alabama Crimson Tide, and assuming he continues his ascent this year through the schedule, I don't think you're going to be hearing much about Arch Manning. Maybe coming out of a red shirt and taking over. I think it's yours' team this entire year.
Oh, definitely.
All right, well, let's go right to the pros. Now, I know, listen, it's difficult to pick games. We're going to go to your pick first, and maybe you can analyze what went wrong, besides everything, with the Giants-Cowboys. So let's start with that.
I got to tell you, if the Giants don't figure out the line, they're in for a long season. I mean, that poor Jones, he didn't have 2 seconds. He was running for his life.
7 sacks by the Cowboys defense.
I know the Cowboys have a very good defense, but most professional teams have top quality guys on the defensive line. I mean, all the good teams. Mm-hmm. I mean, what would the 49ers do against the Giants? They would kill both of those guys in the backfield. So they got some work to do. And that's why I liked them, because I had heard they really improved on the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
but it didn't show.
So obviously, and the Giants get shellacked last night, 40-0 by the Cowboys in New York. Then the other surprise, there were a couple of real surprises. You had San Francisco going on the road playing against Pittsburgh, a very good defensive team. JT Watt played, okay. And not only did they put up, 30 plus points, but Christian McCaffrey runs for 152 yards against that defense. Quite impressive.
That was another shellacking. I really, they fell behind right away and they couldn't do anything. Pittsburgh. Yeah. They made one little push and then that was it.
In Seattle at home, which is a very difficult place to win. They're usually very good at home. And they played a Rams team that we both did not think would be very good this year. And the Rams go on and beat them 30-13.
Yeah, the best player didn't play. Two of their defensive backs didn't play. And they go and they dominated the game. They didn't. It was Seattle. Their quarterback said they didn't come to play. They didn't come to play in the second half. Wow. The Rams wanted it more.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. No matter how good or bad the Rams may be, one thing is constant. Aaron Donald, when he wants to, and he does, he's got a great motor, is the most disruptive, dominant defensive tackle in pro football today. And it's been that way for a number of years.
Yes, he is.
Tremendous. Let's look at your picks.
One of the best defensive
You've got four.
I got four
big picks this week, and let's start with pick number 1.
My first pick is going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars getting 2.5 points at home versus the Kansas City Chiefs.
Head scratcher.
The Chiefs are going to again be without Kelsey and Jones, so they got their second best offensive player and their best defensive player sitting on the bench again.
Okay.
It's the hangover. It's the Super Bowl hangover. Jacksonville is an up and coming. He looked very good again.
Okay.
I mean, they expected him to be a star in the NFL, and he's performed well. He performed well last year in the playoffs, and they're the up and coming team. I think you got to watch them.
All right. So you got the Jags. Who's pick number 2?
Well, this is going to be a tough one, but I figured after watching Dallas against the Giants last night, they're going to go home and they're going to be playing the Jets. I like Dallas minus the 3. I think the line's going to be higher than 3.
Okay.
But that all has to do with tonight, how the Jets look. I mean, they could look good tonight and it might be lower, or they could look bad and Dallas is going to be 4 or 5 point favorites. But I like the Cowboys. Jets are playing Monday night, short week for them, and they got to travel to Texas. I like the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay, we're on the Cowboys this week. And how about pick number 3?
Pick number 3, I'm going to go back with the Steelers.
Ooh.
At home again, getting 1.5 points from the Cleveland Browns. Yes, the Cleveland Browns played a good game, but let's not get crazy.
Big injury to report on the Cleveland Browns.
Oh, yes, you mentioned that to me earlier before we started the show.
Yeah, Jack Conklin, who's their starting offensive lineman and best lineman, out for the year with a torn ACL.
And you know how important the second game of the year is. Historically, teams that go 0-2, it's like, I'm not for sure, but it's like 30% they make the playoffs after going 0-2. It's just, for some reason, 0-2, it's hard to make the playoffs.
Doesn't bode well if Pittsburgh drops to 0-2, especially both of them at home.
Right, at home.
Okay, so you like Pittsburgh to bounce back. And who's your last pick in the pros this week?
My last pick is going to be the 49ers laying 8 points at the LA Rams. I still no Cooper Kupp. I watched some of the game. The 49ers defense is awesome.
It is.
They probably would have been in the Super Bowl if Purdy didn't get hurt last year.
I agree. I think they
played that game
Eagles
without a quarterback. The Eagles knew they had no quarterback.
Right.
And then they put him in there and they knew he wasn't going to throw the ball. So they almost won last year without a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's going to be San Francisco and Philadelphia for who represents the NFC in the Super Bowl.
Okay, so
against anybody, I think. I got a feeling the Chiefs are not going to repeat. You can't say they're not, but There's too many good teams.
It's
Too many
difficult.
good teams.
I mean, we know how difficult it is to go
Yeah.
back to back in the NFL. So let's just to recap real quick. You like Jacksonville getting 2.5 at
Jags
home against Kansas City. You like
Correct.
the Cowboys, 3-point favorites
Cowboys.
over the Jets at home.
over the Jets.
You like Pittsburgh getting 1.5 from the Browns. And you like San Francisco in a comfortable win against the Los Angeles Rams. Now,
Yeah.
real quick, before we head off for this show and we preview show number 3, real quick, I just want to get your take on 2 games. One, the defending NFC champ Eagles, they were 4.5-point favorites over the Patriots. A lot of people thought that line was crazy and they would go into Foxborough and absolutely slaughter the Pats. Patriots had a chance to actually pull that game out late.
Yeah. Well, it got away from them a little at the beginning of the game.
Mhm.
The interception return for a touchdown.
Right.
And to the Patriots, credit, they hung in there and they looked very good. And I personally think they should have won the game.
Yeah.
They hung in there, and Jalen Hurts did something that he didn't do all last year. He was controlling the ball. He made a beautiful run, and he didn't tuck the ball away. The guy
That was a tremendous defensive
tremendous
play, Benny.
tackle. It was definitely a tremendous tackle, and they did end up stopping him. I mean, they had 2 shots to get in there to score the touchdown, but they didn't.
A big play. But Benny, in that game, the Pats do go down, score, and go for the 2-point conversion, which would have made it a field goal game. They
Right.
get the 2-point conversion, but a holding penalty on the offensive tackle for the Patriots moves them back, and they don't get it. Now at the end of the game, instead of having to go for 7, all they need is 3.
It was the field goal, and they were in field goal
They
range.
were in field goal range, and that thing
Would've-
could go to overtime.
Would have went to overtime.
And that's a killer right there. And the other game I wanted to touch briefly on was an offensive slugfest, and that was the Miami Dolphins and the Los Angeles Chargers. And if you keep Tua Tagovailoa, I said that right, didn't I? Tua Tagovailoa upright, and you give him time between Tyreek Hill and Jason Waddle, how do you stop that speed on offense?
That was like a ping pong contest.
It was.
Every time I turned it on, the other team was scoring,
I know.
and this team was in the lead, and that team was in the lead. Tyreek Hill, he was running all over the place. I mean,
200
he
plus
was-
yards.
He was. I always thought it was Mahomes, but obviously, he was pretty good, And he's a double threat. I mean, you could always use him as a punt returner, kickoff returner.
Oh, yeah.
He could turn the game right around in 10 seconds. He could turn the game around. So, but I would like San Diego, the LA Chargers, but their defense, I mean, non-existent.
Again, they blew a 27-point lead in the playoffs last year. Joey
Yes.
Bosa is supposed to be an impact player at defensive end. I don't think he showed up. Mack on the other side, either he's slipping, but he really hasn't panned out really too much for the Chargers. They didn't get a pass rush.
Ever since he left the Bears, because when he was with the Bears, he was awesome. He was a
Dominant
disruptor.
defensive end.
Yeah, he was very dominant. And who knows? I mean, you could get beat up. They take a pounding, these guys.
They do.
And Joey Bosa, he seems to have that injury bug.
Agreed.
He'll be playing good, and then the next thing you know, he's going. Last year, he lost his mind on a few plays and got kicked out or got terrible penalties that cost the Chargers some valuable, real estate.
Well,
And
I'm not ready.
I
I'm
don't
not
know.
ready to give up on my Chargers, but again, I want to thank you. Let's continue with the college picks, and let's hope for a better week 2 in the NFL. I'll see you this weekend on the golf course.
yes, you will see me Saturday.
All
Bring your
right,
wallet.
fantastic.
Bring your wallet.
Bring my wallet. I always do, and I always give you the money. So thanks, Benny. And
Hey, great-
we'll
great
try
to
your picks
talk to
this week.
everybody.
And
All
I want to
right,
thank
Les.
everyone out there for viewing into our second show, Swartz Talkin Sports. As always, please hit the subscribe button and let us know in the comment section how we're doing, what you'd like to hear about, because we want to be able to answer your questions. So until next week, this is Les Swartz saying good night and have a great week.